John Harbaugh did not just inherit the New York Giants. He just ripped up the old foundation and started building his own version of Big Blue. That is what nobody is seeing clearly enough. The Dexter Lawrence trade was not just a shocking roster move. It was the first real proof that this franchise is done protecting sacred cows. The Giants moved away from a defensive cornerstone, turned day one of the draft into a reset, and now they are staring at day two with a chance to steal even more value. And then comes the twist. Odell Beckham Jr. reunion rumors are swirling again. So now the question is not whether this offseason is loud. It is whether the noise actually has a plan behind it. Jaxson Dart is the starting quarterback. Harbaugh is building with urgency. And the Giants are acting like a team that wants to win now, not someday. This is not your old Giants cycle. This is aggressive, and it changes everything. Let's be honest about where things stand. The holes are clear, and the pressure is real. The Giants cannot pretend this roster was one move away. The offense still needed more support around Dart. The protection still had to become more stable. The pass-catching group still needed more dependable answers. The run game still needed enough credibility to keep defenses honest. That matters because a young starting quarterback cannot carry a half-built structure forever. If Dart is the guy, then the roster has to prove it knows how to protect him. The line cannot keep forcing him into survival mode. The receivers cannot leave him searching for answers after the first read disappears. The offense cannot become a weekly test of how much chaos he can handle. And defensively, the Giants now have an emotional problem too. When a franchise trades Dexter Lawrence, the locker room feels it. The fan base feels it. The entire identity of the defense gets questioned. That is the tension Harbaugh has to solve immediately. The Giants cannot sell a win-now mentality while looking like they are tearing everything down. They cannot talk about elite talent and veteran leadership if the plan feels scattered. They cannot ask fans to believe in a bold new era unless every move connects. Day two matters because the middle of this roster still needs answers. The Beckham rumors matter because nostalgia can either help a young quarterback or distract from the real build. And that brings us to what just happened. The headline is simple. The Giants have entered a bold new era, and Harbaugh is putting his fingerprints all over the entire operation. This is not cosmetic. The brief says the Giants have completely reset their foundation under Harbaugh. It also says that reset was highlighted by the shocking blockbuster trade of Dexter Lawrence, which fueled an explosive day one of the NFL draft. That has real weight, because day one was not just about names coming off a board. It was about the Giants choosing a new direction in public. Here is the emotional translation. When a team moves a foundational defensive player, it is not trimming the roster. It is telling everyone that the old version of the team is no longer protected. That is uncomfortable. But sometimes uncomfortable is exactly what a stuck franchise needs. For too long, Giants fans have lived in the middle. Not bad enough to fully accept a teardown. Not strong enough to scare the NFC East. Not consistent enough to trust the process without asking if the whole thing is another false start. Harbaugh does not seem interested in the middle lane. The brief frames this new identity around elite talent, veteran leadership, and a win-now mentality for Dart. That phrase matters because it tells us the Lawrence trade was not supposed to be a surrender. It was supposed to be a pivot. And that is the key to this entire episode. If the Giants traded Lawrence just to create drama, then it is reckless. If they traded him to bring in two blue-chip talents, reshape the board, and accelerate the roster around Dart, then the conversation gets much more complicated. I know that is hard for some fans to hear. Lawrence meant something. He was not just another player. A move like that creates emotional damage before it creates football clarity. But Harbaugh is not being paid to preserve feelings. He is being paid to build a winner. That is why this new era is fascinating. It is not soft. It is not patient. It is not asking everybody to wait 3 seasons and clap for progress. It is saying the standard changes now. And when you see how day 2 fits into that pressure, the whole picture starts to click. The Lawrence trade created the shockwave. Day 2 is where the Giants prove whether the plan has actual depth. That is the difference between a headline and a real roster build. The brief says the Giants are set up for a potential day 2 steal. That phrase matters because great teams do not only win when everyone is watching. They win when the spotlight gets smaller and the board gets messy. Here is the emotional translation. Day 1 gives you the faces of the class. Day 2 gives you the muscle, the glue, and the players who keep a season from falling apart. That is where Harbaugh can really show what kind of team he wants. Does he chase more protection for Dart? Does he add defensive speed after moving Lawrence? Does he find a pass catcher who can step into the rotation quickly? Does he add a physical tone setter who fits the identity he keeps trying to build? This is where it connects to the bigger picture. If the Giants are serious about a win-now mentality, day 2 cannot be passive. They need players with roles, not just traits. They need players who can walk into camp and make veterans uncomfortable. They need competition in places where last year felt too safe. The G-men cannot just celebrate 2 blue-chip talents and call the job done. They need depth. They need urgency. They need the kind of middle-round value that separates a flashy offseason from a sustainable roster. And this is why the Lawrence trade still hangs over everything. If you move a player like that, the follow-up has to be strong. You do not get to make a franchise-shaking decision and then draft like a team without a plan. Fans can handle pain if the plan looks real. They can handle losing a beloved cornerstone if the roster becomes faster, deeper, and more dangerous. What they cannot handle is losing Lawrence and then watching the front office wander into day 2 without conviction. That would be the nightmare. So for me, day 2 is not a bonus round. It is the proof stage. And when you combine that with the Beckham buzz, the message gets even louder. The Beckham rumors are not just nostalgia. They are a test of whether this new Giants era is serious or sentimental. That distinction matters. Because if the Giants are building around Dart with urgency, veteran leadership has real value. A young quarterback needs more than talent around him. He needs players who understand spacing, pressure, communication, and how to survive big moments when the stadium gets loud. Here is the emotional translation. A veteran receiver can help a young quarterback before the ball is even thrown. That matters for Dart. Odell Beckham Jr. would bring energy. He would bring attention. He would bring a history with MetLife that still means something to Giants fans. The building would feel it immediately. The fan base would feel it immediately. But here is the part nobody is talking about. The Giants cannot make this move just because the name feels good. That would be old Giants thinking. That would be chasing emotion instead of building function. If Beckham fits the plan, I am open to it. If Harbaugh believes Beckham can help Dart, raise standards, and give the offense another trusted voice, then bring the conversation to the table. But if this is just a reunion poster, I am out. The new era cannot be built on memories. It has to be built on usefulness. That is the proof of Harbaugh's vision. Every move has to serve Dart. Every move has to fit the identity. Every move has to make the roster harder to play against. If Beckham does that, then the buzz matters. If he does not, Big Blue has to be disciplined enough to walk away. Hot take. I would explore the Odell Beckham Jr. reunion, but only if Harbaugh believes he can help Dart immediately. And I am not backing down from that. My prediction is this. The Giants are going to add at least 2 more meaningful offensive pieces before the season starts. That number matters because 1 addition is a patch. 2 additions means the franchise is seriously committing to its young quarterback. If I am wrong, I will come back to this video and own it. But I do not think I am wrong. Dart being the starter changes the clock. The Giants cannot waste snaps pretending the roster is complete. Harbaugh cannot build a physical identity while the offense waits for help. And I will say something that might split the room. If Beckham can still help Dart, I want the Giants to consider it. Not because of old highlights. Not because of nostalgia. Because a young quarterback needs players who can win trust fast. But if Beckham is just a headline, pass. The standard is not romance. The standard is whether it helps Dart win games. Big Blue is back at the table, and this time the plan is aggressive enough to make people uncomfortable. That is the episode. The Lawrence trade changed the foundation. Day 2 can prove the depth. The Beckham buzz can reveal whether this team is chasing memories or building a real win-now offense around Dart. Giants fans, pick a side. Is Harbaugh building the bold new era this franchise needed? Or is this reset moving too fast? No fence-sitting. If you are riding with Big Blue through every bold move, every rumor, and every uncomfortable truth, you know where that subscribe button is. We break down the plan behind the headlines. Go Big Blue.